Hey, what is up? Sorry, I had to check something. We are live. It is Wednesday. We're going to have a good time. We are going to go through questions. If you don't know what you're here for, you're here to learn, and we're going to get into this. We are going to Q&A with Scott, and it's PMP style. So PMP Q&A, we're going to go through a bunch of questions to start off the game today, and then we're going to answer your questions as they pop up. So you out there in TV land and otherwise, please put your questions in right now. Why don't you do it right now? Hey, what's going on? What's up? Add your questions now. All right. So right off the bat, wanted to welcome you, and we're going to bounce over to the question solving side of things. We're going to go through at least 5-6 questions right now, and we're going to solve them in a very logical way. All right. So you guys out there, if you're struggling through tons and tons and tons and tons of questions, stop. Like, there is a method to solve problems. If you do it logically, if you bring yourself into the game, then it's really, really good. This one I already showed you the answer, so we're not going to go with that one. So whatever. All right, so we're going to go through this one and kind of cut off the bottom, but we're going to be all right. We'll go to the next one. Totally fine. All right, and so here we go. We're going to solve them in a very logical way. The reason why I'm down below and it says align is because every time you walk into a question, here's what you need to do. All right. You got to realize that it's a treacherous path and how you navigate it matters. Okay. So right down below, we got align. Hey, Vanessa 2.0. I'll click on you to say, hey there. What's up, Vanessa? Why don't you write down a question? I'll answer it, please. We want to start off aligning ourselves to where the question wants us to look. All right. So we'll listen to the question at that point, meaning read the bottom sentence. So, hey, whatever your name is, FMA Truck. What happens to the project? So bottom line here, we're looking right there. Let me get my screens right. And we are looking at, let me get my pointer going. All right, now we are totally adjusted. First thing we look at is right here. Boom. What happens to the project? All right, so some shift has happened. Something has happened. We know right now I got to be looking for that. Sweet. So let's go back. Now that we framed our mind, let's try to understand what the situation is. Think about yourself dropping in like you jumped out of a plane. That's what you're trying to do here. All right, so let's read it together. All right, and Vanessa, I'm going to ask you to play along. All right, so what I'm going to ask you is, as I read it down, please type in below what you think the real problem is or what you think the real situation is. Here we go. A project's deliverable on the critical path is lagging behind schedule. All right. Project's deliverable is lagging behind schedule. Oh no. The cost performance index is 1.3. Okay. The project manager is able to put the project back on schedule. All right. So some action has been taken. I think I understand what's going on. As you go down below, CPI of 1.3. Anybody who's watching, all the people that are watching, is that a good thing or a bad thing? CPI of 1.3. Is that a smiley face or a frowny face? First, right off the bat, tell me. I'll wait. Write it down below. All right. Put it down below. It's a good thing. So our cost performance index is a good thing. Now, if we think about the overall of the project, it says a project's deliverable. So what we're trying to do, good. Thank you, dude. He says good. It is good. All right, appreciate it. A deliverable is lagging behind schedule. So we're behind. And what kind of context did they also provide? What's the key word out there, Robert and Issam? What's the key word that I didn't highlight that will tell us something about our schedule? What is that key word? Anybody out there who's watching at a later time, type it in the chat right now. Tell me you know what it is. What's the key word or words that I should be picking up? Anybody got any guesses? Issam? Come on. What do you got? I can do this all day long. I know you want to write it. It's the critical path. So it's not just that this deliverables behind, but a deliverable on the critical path is behind. And so I say the keyword is deliverable. Vanessa said, all right, I'll throw them up there. She said the critical path is deliverable. Yeah, like what we're moving through. Totally on love it. Lagging, she says. Yep, so lagging behind, that just means it's behind. So contextually, that's important. And I Isum or Isum, I apologize if I'm messing it up. You said critical path. So as you go down below, write what it means to be on the critical path and how does that important or why is that important to the question? Like, why is that important? Does it make a difference? Think it through. When you get it, have it go down, all right? Write it down. Now, the third thing is I want to assert what I think. We haven't even looked at the answers yet. I want to assert what I think and what you think. So if they said, we're behind in schedule, our cost performance is good, the project manager was able to get us back on schedule. So it kind of seems like that cost is like weird. Like, why did they throw that in there? But we got back on schedule. And basically they say, how'd you do it? And what was the consequence? So that's cool. So I got to think that they made some change. They threw more labor at it, maybe. They moved things around. They did something. I don't want to give you the answer that jumps into my head, but they are pushing the schedule around to make it work. They got back there. All right. And as we think about what could we do with something on the critical path, right? So let's go and evaluate the answers. As we go through step by step, I think crashing is in order here, Robert says. Robert, tell me what crashing is, if you don't mind, my friend, in the chat, and everybody else tell him if he's right or wrong. All right. And so right here, when we go, there will be activities performed in parallel. We want to look at each one by themselves. I'm going deep into this one to teach you a method. There will be activities performed in parallel. Okay. So they're saying on the critical path, we'll have activities like this, and they'll go like this. What's that called? When you go like this and you go like this. I think crashing is in order. Vanessa, what do you call that? Right? I think throwing money and resources at the problem. I love it, Robert. That's what crashing is in a sense. So the activities in parallel, that is a method to improve the process, but it's not the method that I think we use. If you can tell me why, you win something. So I'm going to say no, but I'm going to tell you why later. Okay? If you can tell me, put it in the chat. Number B, there will be a revised scope. What does that mean? That just means like, hey, I know one way to finish on time. Don't do all the work. Like, that's not a reasonable answer, right? Oh, increased cost in C. Fimhook says the answer is C. Isham says the second one. All right. So there will be a revised scope. Nothing in here that says we put in a change request. Nothing says we're going to change the concept of the project. So, nah, we can't do that. All right. That's not good. Number 3 or C says there will be an increase in cost and risk. So that's an output. That's a consequence of the actions that we take. So what would cause us to have a cost and risk increase? Well, we put labor, we put resources, we put emphasis on it, right? That would be more money. That might be possible. And like a change it means, right? I like that. So that's a no-go. And then, so what do we have here? Robert says throwing money and resources at the project. Crashing is in order. I like that. So if we got back on schedule with these activities on the critical path and we crash them, this seems really reasonable, right? We'd have to throw time, labor, money, whatever you call it, at it. And if we did that, we'd have probably more risk, potentially, because more cooks in the kitchen, right? That kind of thing. So let's hang on to it. We're liking it. We don't know if we love it yet. No big deal. And lastly, there will be rework. Now, if you see something in here, there will be, all of them. That's very definitive, right? There will be rework. Well, I mean, if you throw more people at it and you're hustling to get the work done, there could be rework. Nothing in this question shows me that they're doing work shoddily, or it's a risky undertaking, or that they have never done it before and there's, risk of issue. Nothing in there like that. So definitively to state that there will be rework, I'd be like, maybe. So there may be rework, could possibly be it, but the word's not maybe, it says will. So we cross it out. So he says that crashing the schedule will increase the cost and risk. I love it, man. And absolutely, when we think about it. So if you want to take it to another thing, why can't I fast track it? Like, why couldn't I fast track? Because I don't want to increase cost. I don't want to increase risk. I'd rather just fast track it. Why can I not do that? Anybody want to tell me? And here's the go. For anybody watching later, tell me why on the critical path, it's very unlikely that I could do this. I could fast track right down there. Boop, 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 boop. I'll give you like 3-5 seconds to do it. Pause the video. Have fun. Do it. All right. So the reason why is because if we think about so the right answer is C. Yay, we got it right. But let's talk about why. That's more important. So we decided, let's follow my method. We decided C. We got it right. Awesome. And now here's the thing. Let's find something that we can get better at from the question. Every single question, do that, right? So the thing we want to do is say, why on the critical path is it improper to fast track? Like, why? Robert says, he's got a pretty good, to do many activities. Let me go back. It says, do many activities in parallel. Yeah, right? And so we got to ask ourselves, can we do that with fast tracking? And Robert says, you're on the critical path. By definition, you can't do things in parallel. Now, I know what you mean, Robert, but I'd ask you for more depth. And I know you only have so many typing. But the reason why is that we have, to get to the critical path, really analyzed the dickens out of it, as one might say. We've really pushed it hard to get down to the point, as I draw this just crude little process map as we go through here and we do this. We have tried our hardest to push this thing and squeeze it in all different ways. Could we do this in parallel? Could we put more labor in it? All those things. We got to the point where it's at its limits, right? And so the odds of taking this activity and putting them together and putting them in parallel, not likely, or we already would have done it, right? So that's what we would have done. There's probably, somebody says there's dependencies. There's probably dependencies. There's maybe, it's like baking a cake. You bake a cake, you put the icing on, you could do this and you end up with a soup, right? That's no good. So you just can't break that bond, right? That relationship. And also, it might be held by resource constraints. Like that kind of talks to us about what we're doing with crashing. But if there were resource constraints, then we can't do it. So there's a certain dependency. So great job, everybody. The answer, my friends and friendettes, is C, which is awesome. So we got one right. That's not bad. Anybody have any learnings that they had from this? Any ahas or, yeah, that was easy, or what did they learn? Write it in there. We're going to go to another one. All right. So let's go through the process one more time. We're going to continue to do this. The more you do it, the better you get. So let's start out with aligning ourselves. I appreciate everybody on here clicking through and talking and asking questions when you get there. So here we go. Last sentence always, what can the Agile team do to resolve this situation? So first of all, it tells us it's an Agile team. That's sweet. So we're an Agile. Our mind frames to that. We got a situation. What can we do to resolve it? All right, sweet. Let's go understand. It says a trend of stories. So we got a user story. Seems like something's happening over time. All right. Trend of user story of stories uncompleted. Oh no. At the end of iterations has become apparent. Multiple team members worked on these stories and no blockers were identified. So we get to the end of an iteration. Sweet, we work ourselves through. No blockers, no issues, but we ain't done. We got cards that are outstanding. We didn't finish them. Isn't that peculiar? So that's cool. Vanessa in the past one said, I just need to know the definition of crashing. Do you know what it is? Somebody else help her out. Write the definition of crashing in there. As we go back into here, and I'll answer it later, we talk about here, you're working cards through the iteration, and we're just not getting them done. So let's assert what we think. First of all, tell me what don't look at the answers. Don't look at the answers. Tell me what's in your mind. Write in the chat. What do you think the problem is? What do you think the problem is? What is one reason that could cause us to be completing the stories or working on them, not getting them done, and there be no blockers? What do you think? I need like Jeopardy music or something like that. I'm Googling. I don't want to get flagged for Jeopardy music. So cool. And so what do you think the reasons are? So if we assert, well, one of the things is we could be working on ginormous sized stories, just big things, right? And they just take a long time and we get close but not finish them. That could be an issue. Or think about the way in which people, like we said, no blockers, no hands were raised. Does that mean that there's no issues involved? Does that mean there's nothing in there? Does it guarantee that? No. Maybe we have an environment where people don't feel comfortable to raise their hand or say that. Maybe we're not executing the daily stand-ups correctly. Maybe we're not talking through that. Maybe we don't know. I don't know. I just want to think through what's happening here. Maybe we don't have the right team so that when we get into it, we can start to make assertions. So let's go evaluate each answer. What do they say? So what can the Agile team potentially do to resolve the situation? A, we could put the stories back into the product backlog and wait for a less intensive iteration to work on them. First of all, is that a thing? Always ask yourself, is this like a legitimate answer? Like, put the stories back on the product backlog. When we don't finish stories, do we do that? Or they just automatically go into the next iteration? Tell me what you think down there. Like this one-way conversation, me talking to chats, I much prefer walking with students like live, back and forth, bang, 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 bang. That's what I like. So I might integrate that into this. But who cares? Whatever you like better, I'll do that. So yes, we do put the stories back in the backlog. If we don't complete them, understand the project. I like it, man. So we do put them back in the backlog. They don't automatically go into the next iteration or sprint, right? So that's valid. But when it says like wait for a less intensive iteration to work on them, are there any iterations that are like less intensive? Do we have like a hard one, easy one? Hard one, easy one? Not really. Like we want the same amount of work, steady pace, repeatable till the sun burns out, right? We just want to constantly produce value, right? And so as we go into this, we really are not looking for a less intensive one. And if we have a trend, what does that mean? Like it seems to be a pattern. Are we solving anything by A? Nah, we're just kicking the can and saying, we'll just find an easier way to do it. So this is not a deep solve, not a comprehensive way to look at things. I don't like it. Thank you, dude. Someone says, no. I got my computers backwards. No, it's not good. I agree. Number 2B, use the next iteration for a team spike to determine the feasibility of completing the stories. Now, that's reasonable, right? We could lay out like a distinct time, a spike in the next iteration where we dive deep and huddle around these and nail it down, figure out the feasibility of these stories, right? That's possible. But the thing that I worry about is like a trend of uncompleted stories, like over and over. Is there a systemic problem in the game that we might want to look at? So we'll hang on to it, but we don't love it, right? And, I want to go root cause. So C, put the stories in the blocked column and work with the product owner to remove impediments. Okay, so we're in iteration-based Agile right now. We have blocked, like we have, hey, I have a blocker, I need help here. Kind of mixing metaphors in a sense of flow and iteration. So we definitely would if we had block, but does it say? It says we don't have blockers. So like what's going on here? Like this is where it feels good. Oh, we have a block column. We want to work with people. We want to go to root cause. We want to remove impediments. Yeah, I'm on board. But in this situation, we don't have any blockers. No one's raised their hand. No one's brought an issue. So it's like, I can't deal with air. So I got nothing going on here. Right? So gone. Now, the last one is work with the product owner. Someone's blowing my phone up. To further break down the stories in the backlog and update the definition already. Now, as we think through some of the reasons why this might be an issue, we said, what did we say? I'll go to big screen just for fun. We'll go to big screen. Like we said that a lot of the things that we might be doing here, the issues, the causes might be related to the fact that we have a ginormous story, something that's not well understood, that's just too big, that's not estimated correctly, that we don't understand. One of those problems exists. Now, if we go back and further break down the stories, we might be able to deal with this, right? And so I'm gonna pull up something different. Keep, and let's go to the bamboo. We're going to bamboo. You don't even know what I'm talking about. But here we go. All right, so we're going fancy pants on here. And so here we go. Let's think about stories. And like, as we have a backlog, wrong pen. Got to go back to the other pen. I like this pen better. Like, as we have our product backlog, right? Tons of user stories. We'll just draw a basic picture, right? The way you want to think about this is the ones at the top. I did this the other night on a coaching call, so let's draw the same picture over and over, right? User stories, it's kind of like a triangle, badly drawn triangle. Not sure, though. I think we call it an epic. Yeah, dude. And so, yeah, the big picture, things, epic stories, all these different things, the breakdown, right? Love it. Now, when we think through stories, the way to think through it is when they come in and they're rough and they're, relatively viable, but they're not refined, they can be big and lumbering and we don't have a great understanding. They're potentials, right? We can have a conversation about them. We need to, but right now we don't exactly know. And so, like, as they get more and more refined, or we groom, whatever you want to call it, the stories get a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller. And it's not because like it's magic, but if we think about looking at the stories and these cards, like the user stories have 3 C's, right? We're trying to understand. One of them is conversation, right? So we want to have a conversation to understand it. So one of the questions is like, who's it for? Like, what do they want and why? Those are the 3 things that we got to nail down. As we get into it, we might start breaking these stories down and just picture it. Like, maybe we figure out there's, 12 different parts, features, uniquenesses. Like, oh, actually, this is 12 different things. Could be a little bit more. And we start breaking it down and we go like, oh, this is awesome. This is awesome. This is kind of like, huh? Like, they don't want this. They don't want this. It looks like tic-tac-toe. Whatever. They want this. They want this. They want this. You get the picture, where these green ones might float up and then become a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller. So as we move up, like the stories in a sense get smaller and smaller and smaller. Doesn't mean they're less valuable. It means they're more rich. Like they're like foie gras or whatever. Like, I like foie gras. I've got I like it. Whatever. Duck liver. It's delicious, but it's like very, very rich, right? So like these down here are just like straight up potatoes. And then like as they come up, I like potatoes too. As they come up, they get like really rich, and they have value, and you know what you want, and they're really premium. And then this user story just became a sprint in a sense, like from its shape. And then they come in here. So that's what we're doing. We're breaking these things down. And right now we might be bringing them in at this. We might not have the discipline to refine them and do all those things. So that's what we might be like. All right. So let me bounce back over to the screen and let me see if that's one of the answers. And if it is, we're home free. All right. So cool. And so here we go. Hit it back. And we are on 6 or 5. So work with what does D say? Work with the product owner to further break down the stories in the backlog. That's what we just talked about. Build a little pyramid, right? Metaphorically. And get the stories broken down and update the definition already. It seems like a great thing. Now, based on the causal chances here, this seems like the best fit. So don't want to do this. We'll do this. Let's see what happens. Booyah. We got it right. We got it right. Now, that's good. So we got it right. What did we learn? What is any questions? Like, anybody want to go through here? Normally in the coaching calls, this is where we're like bouncing back and forth, getting better, squeezing it up. What I'd ask for the people watching now, we've been in it for like a half hour. We got another hour to go. Let's switch. And while I get going on another question, could you do me a favor? And could you put your just general PMP questions? Literally anything. I'll answer it. So put them down below. And we're going to take a little break from questions. And we're going to go to your questions. All right. So I'll start pulling some questions up. And these are previously submitted. But what I would like is, if you could be so gracious, is ask your questions. So we had Praveen send in a question to me earlier today and said, how many Agile questions are on the new 2021 PMP exam? This is the question I get asked every single day. So totally cool. And so as we go into it, oops, hold on. I got to go back and then I got to pull up my bamboo board. We'll go into that. And that's good. Here we go. Let's go to another page. And we'll go back. Magic. The thing that we want to know about the exam, it says, how many questions are there? Well, first of all, for anybody that's like totally uninitiated, like the new PMP exam has 180 questions, right? And today is kind of a cool day because we have in the past year gotten 499 people successfully through and they had 18 fail. Totally cool. I mean, it's not cool. We're working through it, but 499. So hopefully that 500 calls. I feel like a dude waiting for the baby to be born for the 500th person. And so right now we've had a lot of experience and the 180 questions, what we realized and what the students are saying is that basically what we're seeing is that it's basically 50-50, but it feels like it's more agile. And the reason why it feels like it's more agile is because it's basically like 33, 33, 33. In the middle 33 is hybrid. So you do the math. But that hybrid, since most of us come from a waterfall kind of like PMBOK background, that it's like anything phasing in agile feels like agile. But in reality, it's hybrid, right? And so doesn't really worry me. Like it shouldn't worry you because it's like 33% agile, 33% hybrid, 33% waterfall. Simple dimple. It's pretty easy. All right. So that's not bad at all. Hope you, Praveen, hopefully that helps. Let's see another one related. Oh, here's a good one. Elizabeth, that's my sister's name. That's cool. Asks, should I study by the new domains, people, process, business environment, or something else? That's a very good question, Elizabeth. And so, somebody submitted a comment up here. Let me check it out too. No, that's just a thumbs up. Elizabeth out there, you should not study by the new process domains. Let me explain. All right. So I did it the other day and I'll do it again, that the new process domains, think about mental models. If you think about what a mental model is, it's a way to think about concepts that crystallize them and simplify them in your mind. That's what a lot of things like. And so the process groups of waterfall are essentially our mental models. They don't really exist in real life. I'm not debating them. They are there, but somebody said, oh, there's initiating, planning, monitoring, control, or executing, monitoring, controlling, closing, right? They codified them. Now, what the new process domains, people, process, business environment, do is they interpret both waterfall and agile. Now, I'm a registered education provider. I love PMI more than most things in life, and I'm not going against the grain. But I'm saying that what helps us understand is like this is a further diversion or further interpretation off of waterfall and agile. And so what I think to do, I got the highest pass rate in PMP history, so who am I? Is that we focus here on waterfall and agile. Because what we just talked about is 33, 33, 33. Oh, I can do, thank you for keep submitting questions. So if we focus here, all this stuff here, Elizabeth, is based off of here. So if we know this, we know this. And this is much easier and much more logical to learn because it relates back to real life, what we do. You work in an agile environment, you work in a waterfall environment. Most of us work in a hybrid-y type environment. So like I've talked before, you want to study the principles to study the art. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I saw Picasso say once that like, he said it more eloquently, he nails down the fundamentals, like can paint fundamentals, and then he got crazy, right? So like you nail down waterfall, you nail down agile, then you go up there, okay? So study that, don't study this. I can help you with all that stuff and we're good to go. All right, so quick. So let's bring in, let's ask them. Got a question. Change request. What's the right order to go through? Example, if we've already have the scope baseline, okay, sweet. So we're in planning. Let's bring this to life. So if we're in planning, like we got initiating planning, whoop, whoop. We've worked ourselves down. We got our scope baseline, all the details there. Booyah. And the customer came with a new change. What's the best order to go through the change review? Blah, 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 blah. Right. All right. So cool. So here's the thing. Once we nail down any of the baseline scope, this is standard boilerplate stuff, but it's super duper important. And I'll go into like what you need to learn here. Scope, schedule, cost. Like once we nail down the baselines, anything that passes this line, think of this line as like, this is a giant line between planning, executing, and monitoring, controlling, and closing. Like this is giant, guys and girls. Like this is giant. Once we pass it, once we nail these down, we essentially step into the real world. We step into the working world. We have baselines. We have plans. We're going. All right. Any big change that like affects the baselines, whether we agree with it or don't agree with it in our hearts and minds, if it's valid and they put it in, if it affects those baselines, scope, schedule, cost, we have to put in a change request. It has to go to the change control board. That's where the process is. So it doesn't matter what process you're in, what time you're in, etc. Even over here, if there is a change request, they all get submitted and put it in there. Now, I know Rita and some of these other books give you like laundry list of like how to do these things. Nah, dude, this is the way you think about it. You have to understand and analyze. That's what I'd like to do first. Bring in the problem. We don't just go, yes, sir, I'll put it in. And we go, let me understand, let me analyze. So let's just say analyze it first. You break it down, you conceptualize this, you summarize it. We'll just call it summarize it. This is what we need to do. Here's why. You make the case. You submit it. This is just high level. Submit it. And then you wait for the result. It's either a thumb up, like, yay, or no. They like it or they don't, the change control board. That's the way it goes. And then based off that, if they say no, we inform them, I'm sorry, Mr. and ma'am. It has not been accepted for this reason. I appreciate your concern. Here's what we got to do now. Nothing changes. If it is yes, then what happens? What process gets updated? Well, a lot of them. First of all, the baseline, right? Whatever baseline's updated gets updated. And then like the work, direct and managed project work, which is right here, that gets updated. And the people essentially get a new sheet of music. Here's what the big guys say now to work. And that's the system. Now, why do we do it? Is because we need to have controls on board so that we don't willy-nilly change it, because we spent all this time in planning to nail it down, right? We built out our scope, schedule, and cost methodically. We've told people this is what we're doing. We have to update them. We have to get approval. We have to move forward. Does that answer your question? I like what you said, dude. Where's my mouse? I lost my mouse. Someone stole my mouse. He said, I think we need to prepare a change request and arrange a board meeting for approval. Yeah, man. Basically true. That's right. So they said baselines, or do they go directly to the sponsor? They don't go directly to the sponsor. Now, like pre-baseline, yeah, sponsor's the man. After there, change request. Sweet. Okie dokie. Elizabeth, that's the question you just asked. And so we'll go off that. Keep them coming, my friends. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Anybody want to come to a coaching call at 7:30 where I work with students? If you do, put your name down below. And if you're watching this later and want to come to a coaching call with me where we go through hard questions, send me an email. Scott at PMmasterPrep.com, and I'll let you in. You can come and check it out. Change your life. Maybe. Wesley asks, what's the perfect PMP study plan? Well, thank you, Wesley, for asking that. Anybody out there got a perfect PMP study plan they want to share? Anything? Oh, Robert will. Hey, Robert's coming. If the sponsor's not part of it, to inform the sponsor separately. This is going back on the change control. Normally, the sponsor's part of the change control board, but you want to keep them informed as well. But at the end of the day, the change control board in this model of thinking is the final approval. So it's not like the change control board can be overwhelmed or usurp their power by the sponsor. And I got to go through it. So cool. Here we go. Wesley asked for the perfect study plan. Well, the perfect study plan depends on what you need, dude. Like, you got to think about a couple different things. So I'll just tell you how we make study plans. Everybody who comes in our program gets a custom study plan in a sense. And what we do is you have to have a first process, because you can't really just wing plans. Like, you have to go through a learning process. So that's the first thing, is we have a process to go through. But the uniquenesses of the study plan is you need to be realistic about what is useful for you. Okay, we have to start with a goal. That's what we always want to start with. Like, what is the goal? Like, why are we doing this? Now, we really don't work with anybody that doesn't have a two-phase goal. Just letting you know that you have to, like, I want to get the PMP to help my career. That's number one. But then the other one is I want to get better at my job, right? So get better. So I think any plan starts with a goal. And like, if you say, I get better at PMing, project managing, like, that's how it starts. And then we go, okay, sweet. Then let's analyze what your life is like. So if you want to build your own plan, here's how you do it. Figure out why the heck you're doing this thing first, because you're going to hit rocky roads and you got to know what's going to pull you to the next thing. A lot of things, I talked to a lady today, what we do initially is we say, like, what's it going to feel like if you fail? Like, it's cool to know what it feels like if you pass. Everybody wants to see high fives, but know what you're going to fail. Fight that demon away. All right. So you know the goal. And the second thing is be realistic about what time you have. So we always ask, how much time do you have in the day reasonably? Everybody thinks, oh, I can work 10 hours a day, whatever. No, you can't. Like, your brain needs to rest. Like, I don't sleep a lot and it kills me. Okay. So we need to say availability. All right. That's what we need. So how much availability do you have? Do you have 2 hours a day times 5? Do you have 4 times 3? Whatever you have, you need to break that down. And then from that, you need to ask a third question. So what's your goal? What's your availability? What's your learning style? Right? So you need to ask that. And there's a couple different learning styles that you need to ask yourself. Like, let me ask you guys out there. Are you the kind of person with, like, if it was perfect for you, are you the kind of person that likes to read a bunch of things, sit in a quiet room like I am by myself right now, and interpret and think and, like, take notes and do those things, like, slowly by yourself? Is that your style? Or are you like I need to put my hands on it. I've got to understand it. I got to understand why. I got to see how it flows. I got to do that. Or are you kind of person that needs to talk through things and say, I'm going to do some work, but I need to have some interaction to test my theories, to cement it, to challenge me? You've got to ask yourself those questions about how you have learned, not how the schools taught you, because they don't care about you. Like, schools I went to. And, like, you got to think about when you were in flow, when things were easy for you. What was that like? And so if you can knock down, like, hey, I'm a by myself ready kind of person. Okay. Read, like, watch, like, if I'm a tactile, or I can't remember what they call them, learner, like, what is it? If I like to talk, like, nail that down and have whoever's creating, like, the plan for you, build that in. So you want to set a normal plan, you want to work through it, and you want to work in your learning styles in there. It does not have to be just read the PMBOK kind of stuff. You can be more creative, right? And so that's what a perfect plan is. And when we lay that out, then we'll have a date that is arrived upon based on what is reasonable. And we push it, like, push you a little bit. And then inside of it, we want to be sticky with the learning. That's what you want to be, sticky with the learning. So if you're struggling, stop beating your head against the ground. I feel like these things are just me, Scott, ranting at a camera, but, like, stop ranting. Work more of your best style in. Oh, I like to read. All right, well, do more of that. I like to watch. Do more of that. If you like to put your hands on it, make an example, use a case story, do those kind of things. You've got to find the person that talks your language. It ain't rocket surgery. And that's what you do. And regardless, you got to have feedback loops. You got to be honest with yourself. And so, like, we've gotten people through in 7 days, 10 days, 12 days, whatever. Some people take 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Who cares? You get done in your time. So Elizabeth or Wesley or whoever the heck it was, that's the way to make the perfect plan. It's It's got to follow a process where you build up methodically. I think I put that in there. Follow a process that builds you methodically. I believe that you start from simplicity to go to complexity. Never start with complexity and go to simplicity. It just doesn't work for the human brain. How audacious is me to say that. Simplicity to complexity. It helps build a structure that's strong in your brain. Be honest about your availability. Dive into your learning style. Incrementally build it and test yourself continuously. And have feedbacks and be honest. And smile. Sweet. All right. Let's go to more questions. Anybody got anything more? We got 14 people on. And I got 45 more minutes. And so let me see. Let's go back to questions, dudes and dudettes. Let me pull up questions on the other thing. We got 15 on now. It's cool. Who's new? Oh, we got a question. She said, great advice for a study plan. Thank you. Vanessa, do you have a study plan? If you don't, I'll build one for you if you want. Just email me. You might already work with me. I don't know. If you do, don't be offended. All right. So let's go back to questions. Let me pull them up and let's see how it goes. All right. I'm throwing them up. All right. Just talking to the internet is not the most fun thing in the world. I'm going to build teams. Vanessa and Issam, ISSAM, y'all are on a team. Suresh and Robert and Famuk, FMATROOK, y'all are on a team. It's Team A versus Team B. We're going to go through this question. All right? You know your teams. All right? We're going to see who wins. We cool with that? It's never been tried. This is PMP Deathmatch. So here we go. All right, so let's go to the first question. And we're going to go through it together. Vanessa and Isham, you're on the team. I'm a PMP study group, but I'm so tough reading after work. Most times I want to eat dinner and sit on my couch, as do I. Vanessa, email me, Scott at PMmasterPrep, Scott at PMmasterPrep.com, and I'll help you. All right, so you guys are ready? Let's go through this. We're going to take a little bit of time. I'm going to read, mute it if you got to. I'm going to go through my process, but I'm not going to answer it myself. I want you guys to tell me what you think. So as we go through here. So let's go through the first step. Align. Like, how can the project manager best resolve the problem? So we got a problem. We got to make it better. Sweet. All right. We'll understand it together as we make this fighting system up, and then we'll let you guys roll off and do it. Okay? Sweet. A merger of two companies results in combining an Agile software project and a predictive electronics project. Oh, that's cool, right? So we're combining two things. Sweet. Into a single hybrid project. Awesome. 2 months later, requirements have changed in both tracks, but neither has a full picture on status or importance of the requirements. So the overall, like the mix in there has changed, but neither, they're like foggy windows on both sides. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know those things bad. How can the project manager best resolve the problem? Thank you, Vanessa. All right. And so what we want to do here is we want to figure it out. I want to assert, or why don't you guys assert what do you think the big problem? How would you solve it? Don't look at the answers. Vanessa or Issam or Suresh, Robert, Famuk, I don't know. Tell me what your real name is. Tell me what you think you'd do, right? What would be your assertion? What do you think you'd do? I got to have something to work with here. You got two projects, Agile, Waterfall, changing requirements. They don't know what the other each other are doing. How are we going to make the connection? What's the Rosetta Stone that goes between them? How are we going to do this? Any ideas? Think about it before you look at the answers. Give me high levels. Give me something. You got to think through it. If you don't put yourself in the game, you ain't in the game, right? So that's pretty cool. And so as we go through it, all right, cool. So think through it. And as we go down, let's go to evaluating. Let's evaluate the answer. So that's my name. Ferris. Thank you, dude. Or dudette. That's awesome. Review the requirements. Histogram says review the requirements. That is awesome. So you're going to look at the requirements. Do Agile and Waterfall teams look at requirements different? Do we organize them differently? Isham, do we look at them differently? Do they have different ways to organize them? Yes, no, maybe so. It's kind of fun. It's more fun when we talk. I'm going to get people on here and we can talk. That's what I've made a decision. Next time. All right, so let's vote. Do you like A? Would we integrate the product backlog into the requirement specification and educate the software team on working with the new document? All right. Anybody out there? Team A, Vanessa, and then we're not going to do that. All right. Why are we not going to do that? Tell me why. What does that mean? Tell me why. We'll go. I know I'm making this up and it's a little loose, right? But like Ferris and Vanessa, why are we not going to do that? Tell us. Or is just anybody at this point. What is the limitation in that? If we integrate, I like what they're saying, the product backlog, is that waterfall or Agile? That's Agile, right? Sweet. So we're taking Agile and we're integrating it into the requirement specification. Requirement specification is educate team, not Agile. Okay, maybe educate the team. I don't know. I mean, we want to keep the team informed. We want to build them up, all those things. I don't know that it totally negates like that part of it. The more thing I would look at is like Agile into waterfall, right? Okay. So like product. So we're saying in a sense that like, hey, we're going to go over to the waterfall side. They got requirements. So let's take the backlog and put it in there. Now, what's the problem with taking the backlog and mixing it in with the requirements? Like one of the things is like, first of all, we don't have a backlog anymore. That's the problem. And then the other thing is like backlog is things that could be done, not will be done totally. Requirement specification, different. So cool. So I don't know if we would do that. They need to work on their speciality. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to say no. We would be maybe, let's ask Vanessa on this one. Would you create a requirements traceability matrix? Okay. By combining, it says, the product backlog. That's Agile. With the requirement specification, that's waterfall. And define both documents as inputs. What do you think about that, Vanessa? Would that be a way to kind of, what is it, Tower of Babel? Is that the thing where like everybody can speak the thing? I don't know. Would that be a way to bridge the gaps between? I have to think about it. And so what's going on here is like, that could be a way. Like the first one was Agile to waterfall. Let's hold on to this one. C is integrate the requirement specification, that's waterfall, into the product backlog. So that's Agile. So like the first one was Agile into waterfall. This one's waterfall into Agile. Well, if it didn't work the first time, why would it work the second time? Why does one take precedence over the other? I don't know. And it says, and educate the electronics team on working with a new document. So that's just basically saying the people that you're putting in a spot they're not used to, tell them how it goes. Tell them how the world is. We don't like that for the same reason we didn't like A. D would be integrate the revised work packages and the updated product backlog items into a master WBS for project tracking, progress tracking. So like, what is the WBS? Where does that come from? In waterfall, do we have one? Agile, do we have one? Right? I think it could be, yeah. B is the answer. Thank you, John Henry Vieira. C is not true. Definitely not true. Don't like that, right? Integrate the revised work package into the WBS. That's taken the work packages and, waterfall and the updated backlog, Agile at this point in time, they should stay, and putting it into a master WBS, which is waterfall for progress tracking. Nah, we don't do that. Like essentially, no, the WBS is not for tracking. It's for visualization in a sense. And it's a standard, like, boom, we're locking it in stone. Backlogs don't work like that. So I don't like that. So by thinking it through, B, like Robert says, And others say, John, Angelo, whatever, say that as well. So what we're doing there, think about it, is we're taking one side, we're taking the other side, we're respecting where they came from, backlogs, and the requirements, documentation, and we're creating a requirements traceability matrix in the middle, and we're, acknowledging the inputs. So that's cool. We are essentially creating a hybrid dynamic. That's what the game is, right? So if they haven't done that, and there's no reason why they would know what's going on. They haven't integrated. That's the game. So that's good. So as we go through here, obviously we have decided B's the winner, right? And we know why. And so as we learn from this and we say, what could we learn? Like, we want to understand like how scope and requirements, all these things are managed in each. If you don't have a good understanding about like in planning, how we break down the scope from just requirements down to like the WBS, all these different things, scope statement, etc., WBS dictionary, understand that flow. We can walk it through, right? What's in the scope baseline. And then understand how the Agile world handles scope differently. Backlog, totally different, right? Still has the requirements in there, but they have to evolve and be groomed and refined. And just because it's on the backlog doesn't mean that we're going to do it. A lot bit different than the WBS. And we spend way less time cranking down on all the details of the backlog like we would do in when we're building WBS. So different, but we have to understand how to integrate. So that's super duper important. So as we go here, let me pull up another question. Let me see if y'all have more questions. We've been on for about an hour. Let's see. All right, here's another one. Let's go to it. Here we go. All right, cool. This is a shorter one, right? I see less words, which is a good thing. Where are we starting with a line? How often do you do this? Answering questions on here. This is very good reviewing practice. Well, dude, that's all I do for my entire life. I do this once a week, but we do this every day in our program. So the way it works is we go through. Oh, he already nailed it. Good job, dude. Stress. Yeah, we go through this once a week. We do this. I live, but then we do it in our program every day. So if you're interested in that and just seeing and going to coaching calls, shoot me an email, Scott at PMmasterPrep.com. All right, so let's go to it. Here we go. All right, so A is align. So what tool or technique? We're looking for a tool or technique can you use for this task? Sweet. Let's go figure out what the heck the problem is. They say a skincare company reports that customers are increasingly complaining that a product is underway. All right. All right. It's underweight. All right. So they're getting their whatever shampoo, and it's like, dude, ain't a lot of shampoo in here. Or chips. Chips are like 80% air. That sucks. Like, it's underweight. A project manager needs to determine if something needs to be changed in the production line. This is the thing that happens all the time. Because what could happen? Like, a person could get out there and they could they could get one that's a little light, or they could perceive it to be light or something like that. We don't know if there's a real problem yet, but it could be. So the project manager needs to determine if something needs to be changed in the production line. Okay. Which tool or technique can the project manager use for the task? So what's the problem? The problem is we have a perception of being underweight. Okay. We got to figure out what would do that. So this is the quality world. That's cool. And so assert, like, what do we think it is? So we want to go back and understand the data. We want to understand if it is a systemic problem or it's just a point problem. And we want to see, what's the cause and how can we fix it, right? So we got a lot of C's in there. Love it. We want to understand why, and we want to understand that we know all the different tools and the reasons, right? And so as we go through here, let's evaluate. And let's go. And let's say, is it a scatter diagram that can help us in this task? Now, let's be honest. Anybody out there is like, yo, if my left foot depended on it, could you explain a scatter diagram? Like what it is? Is anybody brave enough to say, yo, I don't know what a scatter diagram is? Scott, you're going to lose your left foot. Or right foot, left foot. I like my right foot better than my left foot, I think. Anybody out there doesn't know what a scatter diagram, I'm going to tell you regardless. But what a scatter diagram does is it looks like this. and it takes the relationship, it tells you the relationship between two variables. Okay? So it could be any two variables. You're trying to see if there's correlation between them. That's the big thing. And so we could say like miles per gallon, or, the car efficiency in a sense, and the weight, right? So as the weight of a car goes from like baby car to like really heavy car, more, what happens to the miles per gallon? Like if we took every car on the road and you just checked them, you worked for Ford. Hey, all our cars, let's see what happens. Like the little ones would have a really high, miles per gallon. Then as we got bigger in miles per gallon, what would happen with our miles per gallon? If we got bigger in pounds, what would happen in miles per gallon? It'd go down. So the pattern would roughly look like this. Now we can get super freaky and like scientific-y and like understanding the pattern. We can look at our R-squared values. We can have the closeness of fit and all these different things that are super cool to do. You don't need to do it for the PMP. But like basically we're looking for a pattern. Is it a rough pattern? Oh God, that's a rough line. That's like going down. That's an inverse relationship, going down, inverse. If it looked like this, that would be a positive relationship, right? Upward. This value goes up, so does this value. Doesn't mean that there's causation between the two. Just means they're correlated. The values are correlated, related, right? One goes up, the other goes up. One goes up, and the other goes down, whatever it is. And then there's also like what technically could be called throwing meatballs at the wall, but there's no correlation. It's just like there's just a big pile of data. Now, would this help us? No, like it wouldn't, because like what are we going to do? Like what are the two variables? Like the weight of the bag or the weight of the shampoo or something like that? What's the other variable? Like when it came out or something like that? Like when it was released? Maybe, but in doing that, we're technically building a different chart. So like that isn't the thing. But if you want to understand what the scatter diagram is, that's what it is. Angela says, deals with two variables. Good job, dude. Yay. That's good. So let's clear the screen. Let's keep rolling on. So we just nail these things down. Now, the second thing is an affinity diagram. Somebody says, Jennifer Power says, I've been studying for 4 minutes. I would have used Scott Program if I would have known about it from the start. 4 minutes or 4 months? 4 minutes? You're doing pretty good, dude. Yeah. 4 months. I would have used Scott's program if I would have known about it from the start. He helped me so much in the last 2 weeks. The best I found. Jennifer, that's so nice. Why don't you email me, Jennifer? Do we know each other? My email is scott@PMmasterPrep.com. Months, Jennifer. I thought you said minutes. I've been studying for 4 minutes, Jennifer said. And she's already got it. No, dude, 4 months ain't nothing. When's your exam, Jennifer? Jennifer, when is your exam? That's what Scott asks. Glad you like it. All right, so sweet. Let's go through Affinity Diagram. No, I will take it. The exam is this Friday? Okay. Come to my coaching call tonight. Let me tell you if you're ready, or let me make you ready. Send me an email. It's got to be a master prep. You come to coaching call tonight. I'll hear your brain talk, and I'll tell you if you're ready or not. Is that cool? That's awesome. All right, so affinity diagram. What does that do? Affinity. What do you think about? Like, I don't know what the root of affinity is. Affinity. I don't know. It means suck together, stick together, stuff like that, right? And so, where do we see affinity diagram? We see it in like collecting requirements, looking at defects, doing those things. So, in a sense, like we would say, oh man, we have a bunch of issues. What are the causes or something like that? We're basically trying to make sense of data to put it in patterns to see if something's there, right? So when we collect requirements and things, we say like, oh, things related to the front end, things related to the back end, things related to software, things related to something like customer experience. I don't know. You group them together and we might have like stickies or something. In the quality world, you might be like, yo, what are all the defects that we've had are related to this part of the process or that part of the process or, etc. We're just grouping things together to see patterns like, oh, there's not a lot over here. There is here. So in this, like maybe if we get into like what the defects are or where they are found, maybe doesn't feel right. Affinity diagram just helps us see the patterns. What's up? Collect requirements like that, dude. Jen, you're going to be fine. Maybe. Probably. Come and talk to me. See you tonight. Control chart. All right. So what a control chart is, somebody already nailed down that they like this answer. Write your definition like, yo, what a control chart is down there. The control charts are the best thing in the world, by the way. The best thing in the world. Google a dude named Don Wheeler. Fantastic mustache, even smarter guy. Okay. And so what a control chart does is that it takes data and helps you see the bigger picture, see the forest for the trees, whether they're, the noise and the signal in a sense. So what would happen is we would take, say there's a factory line right here. It's a terrible looking, it looks like a bug, but like I'm going to redraw it. That's even bad for me, dude. Like, there we go. Where's my pens? We got the factory line coming off. The bottles of shampoo are coming off, whatever. And they're different sizes, but not really. And we weigh them, right? So every one that comes off, we put it on a little baby scale, or we take samples. More likely, we take samples. We're cranking them off. We take random samples at a pace, right? And there's some number. And then these are the samples right here. Samples on the bottom. And this is the weight. Pounds, ounces, whatever you're going to call it. First one, this much. Second one, this much. Third one, this much. Fourth one, this much. Fifth one, this much. This much. You get the pattern, right? They're all over the place. Up, down, left, right. I'm going to move my feet tonight. And so, yeah, you get a pattern there. Now, the way this works is you want to see whether there's a problem or not. Because if you think about what happens in normal life is like you get a chart and they hand it into business. This is how to lie with stats. I draw off the paper. This is how to lie with statistics. Like you just choose the amount of data that you want to show. What happens in a business meeting is they're like this, and they go, we have a trend. We're getting better. If you want to tell that story. Or we say, this, and this. Oh, we're getting worse, or we're reducing costs or something like that. But in reality, these things might be in the same pattern where what we have is ain't no change. It's just standard ups and downs. What they call that is variation, systemic variation, internal variation. All right. And so what we're doing here is what we want to say is pick the right pointer. Is that like, what's the average? That's easily calculatable. And then what they say is there is math. It's very, very simple, by the way. They can figure out what is the predictable expected performance from this process. Is it in stability? Is it stable? Okay. And what this does is if it's normal data, it'll look like this. Like a certain amount of data will be above and below. And what the math people have figured out is there are patterns in the data that are unlikely mathematically. And there's a bunch of them. They're like from a dude named Stewart and the Motorola guys and girls. But they're saying like, if there are a lot that are way close to the edge, that's bad. That's unlikely. So we might want to look at it. If they jump back and forth over the line on average, that's unlikely. If there's a bunch on one side at some pace, that's unlikely. So there are rules that tell you. And then there's also, if they're outside of the level of expectation, then that could be an indication that we have a problem. Now, in this case, we're talking about here. So that's the system performance. All right. What the system will produce. This could be assignable cause, meaning like there's a reason for it. It could be a special case, or it could just be system performance. Now, to simplify this, I don't know if I've done a good job or a bad job. Who knows? Is when we think about here, they're saying if it's underweight. Now, what we're saying is we've made a commitment to the market to say our things are 16 ounces or whatever. Now, we could look at our data and say how many points are outside of it, mathematically see that. And if our bounds of what we are producing, what is expected performance, are outside of the lower control limit of what we expect, then we have a problem. So that's telling what expected performance is, this line to this line. This green thing, I shouldn't use all the green, is what our lower control, what we can get through. We have to be above it weight-wise. So we determine if there's a problem. That's why a control chart is the right thing to do in this one. Okay? I've done a better explanation of that before. That wasn't the best one. Yeah, Scott at PMmasterPrep.com. Yeah, good job, Jenny. Jennifer. Sorry, let's stay formal. Yeah, that's it. Scott at PMmasterPrep.com. And then, all right, so the last one. So we like control charts. That's the one that's right because it's helping us see the pattern. Same thing. Last thing is a histogram. What a histogram does is it organizes the data in a way. And what's funky is that technically a histogram and a control chart are very alike. They're just on their side. All right, so what it does is it says, like, say we took bags or the soap bottles or whatever, shampoo bottles off. We'd say, how many of them are between, 8 ounces and 10 ounces? How many are between 10 and 12? How many are between 12 and 14? You get the pattern. How many are between 14 and 16? Whatever. And then, like, as they come out, like, we would put data, like, there's one right here. There's one right here. There's one right here. There's another right here. There's another right here. There's another right here. And as they stack up, you're going to get like a pattern, like all the data there. Oh, most of them are between here on here, and there may be like here. This is where we get normal curves from, by the way. And so, yeah, and right here. And so we can see a pattern to say most of them are between 12 and 14 ounces or whatever, right? And then we can say, is that acceptable or not based on like the tails and stuff where we think it is. And if we think about it, we could study the data. And if we go to the Six Sigma classes that we teach, we could do that, lean, whatever. We can understand the pattern in the data. We can understand all those things. And if we think about this sideways, so that just helps us visualize where they are. So control charts is better. Essentially what this is, if you flip this on its side, it is a control chart. It's just not done that way. Because all this data from like, it's actually inverse, like the 8 to 10 is like down here. So these, say there's 2 data points right here. It would be like data point here, data point here. These 10 to 12s would be like here, 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 and here. All these things. So you essentially build it. It's just visualizing it a different way. Trust me. That's what it does. But it's just a different way to see it. Okay. So it organizes the way different. Control chart is the right answer. That's pretty cool. And we got it right. So underweight. So if they wanted to ask a question about like, what's the relationship between two things? Scatter diagram. Hey, where do we see a preponderance of data or groupings of things like that? Affinity. Same thing as like, where is the highest concentration? Histogram. Those kind of things. That would be the variations in the question that would get us to different answers. So we are an hour and 7 minutes into this. This was fun. So let me see. I got a coaching call at 7. Hey, Jenny, I would love to join. Thanks. Awesome. Super pumped. Let me know if you want to join the coaching call tonight. We do them every Wednesday night with me all day and night. We go through hard questions together and we hammer down on them. We teach you how to do it. And the cool thing is I don't have to talk to myself. I don't do a lot of talking, honestly. We just talk back and forth and we go through questions and we really let you be the star and work through stuff. And it's actually the best thing in my professional life. And so that's kind of fun. So I want to leave you tonight just with something else. So let me know if you have questions. Where are we going here? Yeah. What kind of questions do you have? Anything left before we go? Otherwise, you guys did amazing tonight. We're going to do this every Wednesday. Please share this with your friends. Subscribe, all that jazz. What do they tell? Bells, click them. And we'll go from there. But if nothing else, we will see you later. Alligator. Everybody think positive thoughts for Jenny. We're going to go to work tonight, see if we can get her score even higher, and we'll go from there. So see you guys later. Bicycle.